Hello again. Today's tutorial brings you a take on a gypsy style fortune teller. I like the whole duality of predicting fortune and misfortune, reading death in a palm and all that jazz. Plus, I'd seen a fortune teller look with the tattooy fingers and thought I'd cascade them from my eyes. Keep on watching if you want to see the deets on how to achieve this look for yourself. Originally I was going to tease and curl my hair more Esmeralda style, but my hair's too dull and ashy and not a deep brown or a black, so I ended up adjusting the design to better fit with this awesome rich wig in the style Brave from Star Style Wigs, not Spawn. We don't need that for now as wigs tend to be hot and give me headaches, but I will put it on every so often to check matching. In the meantime, give yourself that bone structure you've always wanted with fluff tons of contour. Oh, and yes, I do have a slightly darker foundation on today. I like the sun-bronzed gypsy vibe, so ignore my pale ass hand. Speaking of, I cover it in a lighter foundation to try and get a handprint on my face, and then realize this wouldn't really give me most of the skull features, given the cavities between like my fingers and my palm and in the middle of the palm, so I just outlined it instead, somewhat forgoing the handprint thing. I may revisit it properly in the future. I'm using the NYX Pro Highlight and Contour Deep Shades for this, as I did with the contour. Then I add highlight from the Strobe of Genius palette. Since I am bronzy, I can get away with the gold, and it's lovely. I do mix it in the paler bottom right shade for a brighter kick in some areas. Back to the skull, I'm using Paradise paints for this. You could use a dark brown, but I have a Mayron palette in front of me, so I just mix the black and other colours to get a brown to outline stuff. I am making the fingers a little more handprinty here with gaps and rougher lines. I even bring the gap between the fingers where there's going to be the eye socket for the skull, which I add now. I'm following a reference sketch for the skull for this. Feel free to use your own skull design if you like. Mine has a non-uniform sockets and teeth, being not circular and semicircular respectively. This adds more character and realism even if your teeth or even skull looks smaller and rounder in real life. I add the cheekbone lower outline and the teeth lines that aren't really true to life, but I really like adding them. Then I add the lower jaw, curving the back part to behind the lower teeth and the front down past the teeth to jut forward. I add a hole in the jaw where the tendons and stuff go to move it. I also add some swirly bone in the nose cavity. Then I add the little sinus hole and the bottom teeth lines. I'm gonna call them teeth lines until someone corrects me. I also take a damp brush to blend any particularly harsh paint edges, and then I'm using the contour palette from earlier and black Onyx eyeshadow from Mayron to add some more shading to the skull. Again, following my reference photo, deepening under the socket bone ridge and around the edges of the skull, adding in the temple with paint since I forgot it, and messing up the fingerprint in the process, so I quickly fix that with more foundation while I can see it and before I forget it. Then fill in behind the jaw with brown paint, deepest near the edge and blending it towards the center. And I shade the ridge of the eye socket and the outer edges of the teeth, which would sit further back and therefore be more shaded if there was a forward light source. I forgot the gum type bone ridges for the teeth, and I'm adding more shading for the jaw divots and around the entirety of the skull handprint. Then I fill in the nose cavity where there aren't swirly bones, and then finally fill my socket, again concentrating the paint around the edges and blending it out to the eye. I leave the gaps between the fingers so the handprint design is still kind of in effect, and add some more shading to the top of the skull, mostly just because it looked too plain, and then I finished deepening around the handprint. The socket was so dark that the other holes in the jaw and teeth lines were just too light, so I darkened them. Then, taking a tiny little brush, I take a dark brown and add tiny little cracks throughout the skull, and highlighting the skull with the same foundation shade I used to start. And I'm taking NYX's No Filter powder and dabbing it over the design to fade it and make it look more like a tattoo. Then I am taking Subversive Socialite and Cherry Sky's Liquid Suedes to be a base for Fetish, Hot Single Eyeshadow and Crimson High Definition Blush. I apply the lipsticks first, not taking them too far since I am blending them out and they are just the base, and I use a clean brush to blend them out. Then I apply the blush, which is a bright ass red to the inner side and Fetish to the outer. and then I blend these out, and then blend out a little bit more with a brown shadow from the contour palette. I add just powders to the other eye. You can see it's not as strong of a payoff without the base. Then taking the slide-on pencil in Glitzy Gold from NYX, I add this to my waterline, taking it slightly further down, especially in the inner corner. Using the matte liquid liner, I add eyeliner. Normal eyeliner first, then adding a bunch of extra unnecessary stuff. I don't really recommend this middle-y line. It looked pretty cray-cray when you close your eyes, which is why I wiped it off and pushed it a little more to the side since it was looking weird, especially with the way that this eye creases. Then I add some gold accents to this liner with metallic powder mixed with a mixing medium and a touch of yellow paradise paint for more saturation. The brows are interesting. I wanted them as vibrant as the wig, so I used red paradise paint first, very lightly to fill in the shape of the eyebrow, and then I mixed the red blush and browns for the contour palette to fill in the brow more. Then I take the orange from the Mayron Brilliant palette and brush it just through the brow hairs to add the golden orangey highlights the hair has. Now for these tattoos and symbols, I use both the 2-timer felt end and liquid liner from NYX. Some of these are just scribble and some are tarot symbols. Fun fact, I even tried to keep mostly the positive symbols on the beautyish side and some of the more darker symbols cascading from the skull side. These are all small symbols, so if you fluff up, since they are so tiny, just roll with it and change the symbol design a little. It's going to take forever to watch me add all these symbols, so I'm just going to show you the end result. I also added a couple of accent dots around the place with black and gold. I lined my lips with vintage lip liner, again from NYX, and filled them in with ombre purple to red with the same suedes I used for the eye. Then I added a bunch of gems, for pizzazz I guess. And more pizzazz with lashes, upper and lower, and a bunch of necklaces, contacts, a necklace pinned to their wig like a headdress, and some hand tattoos and snazzy empress tip nails that were probably too blue on camera for this look, but they looked more purple with red reflex in real life. And we are finito. Thanks for watching guys, I hope you enjoyed it and can use something from this, even if it's just the eyebrows. This is my second Halloween video of the season. Go to my channel to check out the last and subscribe while you're there to see my next videos. And if you want to know when I upload these, check the notification bell to know when, since I don't really have an upload time. Shari. Love all you guys, and I'm glad to have graced your eye and ear holes. And of course, stay classy peeps. My vape is cinnamon flavoured. Oh.
Is this your card? Thoughts? Focus. Focus. Yeah, good. I'm done. Bye bye. Catch you later. See ya. Farewell. Arrivederci. Au revoir.